for joining us for our Growth Systems Business Coaching webinar today. CEOs and executive leadership teams will gain insights into applying systems thinking to grow their organization in a sustainable and predictable way. We're going to explore a couple of topics today that are often missed in having your organization consistently deliver what your customer wants. Innovation can be far more predictable and far more profitable if you start by identifying jobs that customers are struggling to get done. I'm sure everyone recognizes this. Yes, it's a skateboard. It's a fancy one with those wheels. Is this what you think of when you hear the term system? Well, probably not. We'll explain more in a few minutes as we explore the connection between a skateboard and your business in this webinar today. That's me, Jerome Dickey, the founder and CEO of Agile Work Solutions. I guide CEOs, executive directors, and executive leadership teams in identifying their barriers, working to build and implement a roadmap through a proven, practical, and profitable approach for growth. We transform business through people by helping to simplify the complex with a focus on the 7 attributes of agile growth. And some of the clients I work with are chief executive officers, executive directors, boards, executive leadership teams, entrepreneurs and founders, small, medium enterprises, and community organizations. What are the 7 attributes of agile growth? Well, it's really a strategic business framework for growth that addresses every aspect of business operations. Yes, designed to incorporate outside content, tools, and principles. You can think of it as an open operating system rather than a closed one. It never stops evolving. Too often we're seeing CEOs and executive leadership teams lack discipline and a culture of accountability. And as a result, they don't commit to the consistent application of a proven framework for growth. Put simply, they're failing because they've failed to commit. Well, the 7 attributes of agile growth is a more disciplined approach, empowered by a proven, comprehensive, yet adaptable framework for growth. And we know those who select the right framework for growth outperform their competitors, and their CEOs are more confident and they're productive. As a result, they're able to build award-winning companies and a greater personal wealth. A true strategic business framework is agile, it's comprehensive, and it remains consistent through time. Instead of a passing fad, it serves as a foundation within which new content, research, and tools can be integrated. Here's 7 attributes of agile growth: leadership, talent, strategy, execution, customer, profit, and systems. Today, we're going to focus on the systems attribute. And here's a bit of a metaphor for the 7 attributes agile growth framework. Think about building a home. After the foundation's laid, the framing of the home sets the basic structure for the home and will include the appropriate rooms to make the house a home: the family room, kitchen, dining room, bedrooms, bathrooms, laundry room, and office. Each room is carefully framed in, and the home would be incomplete without each room. Once framed, each family that lives in the home for years and decades to come may change the colors, decorations, and furniture, but the basic 7 rooms remain well framed, and the core of the home is benefit for years to come. And so it's with the 7 attributes. Each is vital to a company's growth from startup to full maturity, and through time, various tools, service providers, and content can be added and modified, but the basic framework remains intact. It holds the home, if you want, for your business together. The 7 attributes is agile, scalable, and comprehensive. And when we talk about agile, we mean continuous evaluation, course correction, and alignment to outpace your competitor's strategy, execution, and profit. Scalable, it's a framework with tools and advisors that can help start you on a scale up right from the beginning of an IPO right through to a successful exit. And comprehensive, it includes thought leadership, practical tools, and expert advisors, coaches like myself in the 7 attributes. The process is easy and speedy. Start by building an annual plan called the Growth Roadmap with your leadership team. Next, learn and employ the 7 attributes tools continuously. And third, assess the progress frequently on a regular interval, when market conditions change or when a new opportunity or adversity comes calling. like we've seen the last 2 years with COVID. Every company has a business plan. The question is whether you have intentionally and proactively planned it out as a team, or you're somewhere between sort of winging it and having that well documented, having it current. This is just an example of what the Agile Growth Roadmap looks like. Well, today we're going to give the gift of a powerful tool to help you build your growth systems. And all our tools, they're simple, they're one page and easy to understand. They're practical, they include learning, instructions, and discussion, how to apply to your business, and they're actionable. They require that in-depth discussion and application to the specifics of your business. So get us going here. Here's a reflection question for you. Take a moment, if you've got a piece of paper, pull it out. Are your systems helping or hindering the delivery of your best customer experience? Don't think just in terms of IT or technology. Think about the customer experience and the systems that help deliver that. Give you a moment to jot down a note or two around that. Okay, got one more question for you to think about and reflect on here. What is the cost to your business when your systems fail? Do you know when you have a failing or underperforming system, what's the cost in terms of money, customers, staff lost, productivity? Again, reflect on that for a moment and make a note or two around that. Okay, we're going to move along due to time here. We're going to get a little more into the detail here around systems for you. Well, the skateboard is made up of parts as shown in this slide. It is part of a larger system, or you can think of it as a jigsaw puzzle. And that makes up the experience the customer has when he or she is interacting with the company selling the skateboard, from purchasing to using the skateboard. This system is designed to enable and deliver the entire experience and can make the difference between a great or a bad customer experience, depending on how the system is designed and delivered. Well, according to Peter Drucker, well-known author in business, the customer rarely buys what the company thinks it's selling. Think about that for a moment. The customer rarely buys what the company thinks it's selling. Now let's review what this means when we apply systems thinking to the company that wants to grow in a sustainable and predictable way. It's easy for us to agree that the whole skateboard is better than its parts because the customer can actually do something with the whole skateboard. But the reason why the customer buys the product or service is often different to what the company had in mind when first creating the skateboard. So Clayton Christensen, he's a famous Harvard Business School researcher, and he's a professor, and he's innovation author, and he's written about jobs to be done in his theory of innovation in around 2016. We're not going to get into detail here, but it's fundamental. You can take a look at it. He's got podcast, videos, etc. Jobs to be done. Take a look in that. Anyhow, when he applied this towards McDonald's Corporation, he demonstrated that the job of McDonald's milkshake, and he goes into depth on this. What does a milkshake actually do? And you think it's obvious. You can take a look at a video around this. It's Understanding the Job of Milkshake, it's called. We're not going to go into it here. But if you can understand the job, then you're improving the product becomes very obvious. Okay. So in order for the system to provide a satisfactory experience, the growth company needs to have an in-depth understanding of who its core customers are and what the job of their product or service is for each of these core customers. In the case here of McDonald's, the milkshake does a different job throughout the day for each of its different core customers. from the driver taking a long journey to work in the morning to a mother and child visiting after school. They're different core customers, and that product plays a different role with each of them. Understanding the jobs to be done from a customer's perspective helps companies design their system to deliver the experience the core customer is seeking. Additionally, focusing on the job to be done helps a growth company make innovation, incremental or disruptive, predictable, and not a haphazard or a creative guess. And this is because the job exists. And if we make our focus on creating a system, a product, service, or experience, doing something better, we can predict that customers will buy it. Now, that sounds simple, or maybe not, but in fact, as you've already experienced, it's hard to engage your leaders and teams around this jobs to be done concept. Many prefer to focus on the product they want to produce versus why the customer wants to buy the product. In other words, what job do they want to get done from that product or service? Also, many leaders tend to think about systems from their functional perspective and often think of creativity and innovation as coming from processes that are less structured or less predictable. That's simply not true. And in Christensen's research, he found that almost always successful companies were those who focused on the job to be done at the beginning of the process. And then the logic takes over and produces something customers want to buy. The logic is straightforward. We have these customers, and they use us to get a job done. And design the system to deliver that job that the customer needs to do. Our customers have other jobs. And so maybe we ought to offer other products so they can get those jobs done as well. And here's where the growth comes, and it can be exponential. Let's review what the Ollie means from a systems perspective and how it enables a company to grow. Well, Rodney Mullen is undoubtedly one of the first names to come to mind when we think of skateboarding. Mullen started skateboarding at the age of 10 when his friend showed him a skateboard for the very first time. Well, now Mullen's a skateboarding legend, and he's a person who is considered to have invented skateboarding as a sport. He's one of the most famous skateboarders all around of all time, and he really stands out. He invented some of the skateboarding ollies and flip tricks, including the kick flip, the backside flip, the 360 flip, one-footed ollie, and others that are here today as a basis for street skateboarding. I'm no skateboarding expert. I'm more of a snowboarder, but anyway, in skateboarding, that's the job to what is the job to be done? And for some core customers, their job to be done is to feel and look like Rodney Mullen. Well, for others, it's to compete like him, and so on. So there's different jobs to be done if you think in terms of the skateboard. Depending on who the core customer and the job to be done for them is, skateboard companies like Element, Plan B, and Girl Skateboards, to name a few, need to consider carefully the ultimate experience that their system needs to provide. And so here's a few examples. Element, founded by a professional skateboarder in 1992, focused on core customers who are conscious about the skateboard's use in nature and the environment, and the interconnecting of art and skateboarding. Whereas Plan B skateboards focus on offering customization, as well as skateboards that come already assembled and ready for immediate use and action. And everything a skateboarder needs, including the deck, wheels, trucks, and bearings. Well, Plan B skateboards are also designed for the customer to make them everything unique about them, cool graphics that reveals the customer's personality. Again, alternatively, Girl Skateboards makes films, videos to help their customers achieve the perfect ollie, in addition to selling customized and ready-to-go skateboards. Okay. So there are three distinct versions here of the core customers and the jobs to be done. The design of the systems that deliver the product, service, and experience and get the job done for the customer are what makes the difference between a satisfied and an unsatisfied customer, and predictable growth versus maybe growth. Let's review how systems thinking is the key to growth. Imagine for a moment that you have a 1,000-piece puzzle. In some areas, you've assembled the pieces. They fit together perfectly, and the picture is clear. In others, you're maybe missing pieces, or the pieces are being sort of forced together and they don't quite fit. When you have the right pieces fitting together in the right places, the bigger picture becomes clear. It's an amazing picture of your business working efficiently, smoothly, and delivering on the jobs to be done for each of the customer's core customer segments to their delight and satisfaction. Each piece of the puzzle is a system or component of a system: people, processes, information, tools, technology, and more. Well, systems interconnect to create the whole picture and the whole customer and employee experience. Your business running on the 7 attributes of Agile growth. We define systems as a collection of interdependent items designed to create value and a predictable and desirable result. Systems go beyond a process to include the people involved, culture, desired experience, information in and out, and more. Is that the way you think of systems? Your systems must be able to scale to meet your goals. If they aren't healthy as you grow, the consequences can be painful. And your company has most likely already experienced many of these challenges because few companies leverage systems thinking, whole experience versus parts and functions. I'm sure you've seen this all around you, not maybe in your organization, but elsewhere, where you've seen service breakdowns, and it's really underlined by the system itself. So I want to take a moment to touch on this really amazing book from James Clear called Atomic Habits. And it's where he shares ideas and concepts based on proven scientific data and research. I highly recommend this book. In Atomic Habits, James Clear provides a simple and clear framework for breaking down and transforming your daily habits, and says that habits are the compound interest for self-improvement. If you're trying to get better results, you don't necessarily worry about setting goals, but focus on your system instead. And this is so critical. We tend to chase the goals without understanding the systems that are both can be barriers to achieving those goals or support getting to those goals. And that's really his focus here. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. He says systems are about the processes that lead to those results. The book has some amazing insights, and I, again, highly recommend you read it. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about a single accomplishment. It's about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. Let's look at some different processes inside your organization and discuss what the customer experience might look like if your systems aren't optimized to deliver the optimal outcome. So when you start to see these situations arise, look at your systems and focus on what you're looking for in the outcome, and then work on changing your system to support that outcome. Now, some big and common trends in a lot of organizations look at flat or declining revenue, failure to deliver on a sale, poor customer service, disappointed customers, fulfillment fails, quality fails, decline of employee attitude and behavior. These are all trends that can point to system problems. Identifying your core processes, you want to make sure to stay focused on how you'll map these processes, so they're not only deliver the results you're trying to achieve, but also to make them sustainable. In addition, how you create these systems to ensure everyone is accountable to deliver on the agreed upon results. How would you do that? Well, to do this, you must ask yourself the following questions to ensure everyone is focused and aligned. Do our processes have an agreed upon outcome and metrics to drive the desired behavior? Do our processes improve the customer experience? How do we optimize our key processes? Do we have consistent execution of our processes? Well, once you've answered these questions, you should be able to clearly identify your core processes and map the most efficient workflow so you can deliver the best results for your customer in the most efficient way. So let's take a look at this a little more. The core process must create value and benefit to the customer. The primary processes are the purpose and existence of each organization. Core processes will be different if different sectors and industries, and it's important to look at your sector and industry in this regard. However, if an organization wants to improve its operations and efficiencies, it should begin with identifying the core value to its customers. Here's 5 things to consider when determining your core processes. Are the core processes, or your core process, you identify vital in executing your strategy and delivering the desired results? Are you taking a 50,000-foot view to ensure you're seeing the most important processes in the organization? So think about high up in an airplane looking down. You want that high-level view. Does the outcome of each process bring value to your customer? Does the process make the customer experience better? And is the process flow for each core process healthy? That's a little introduction about core process. We're going to talk a little more about it here. Here's an example, though. Marakai Homes is a leading residential home builder for move-up and premium first-time buyers in Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona, building approximately 500 new homes a year. An important core process they've identified is their training, safety training, measurement, and communication core process. Now, as a construction company, safety is a vital issue for culture, productivity, and also market perception. Through time, they've built a thorough safety training program, set compelling quarterly KPIs, metrics if you want, for a number of incidents, both for their own Marakai Homes staff and contractors. And they've assigned a senior leadership team member to oversee, lead, and be held accountable for this core process, which is the effective training, measurement, and communication of safety within Marakai Homes and its contractor workforce. This is a true story. This comes from a coach, a Gravitas coach, Keith Cup, who's worked with this company for an extended period of time, and they've seen some really great results. Let's start by identifying our core processes. Imagine you're in an airplane flying over your city. At cruising altitude, you don't see all the small details. You see the big landmarks, major buildings, big tracts of home, farmlands, large bodies of water, golf courses, and maybe freeways. Well, let's take that same 50,000-foot perspective for your company. When identifying core processes, we start by thinking of the key steps that are vital to your organization. Generally, you start with how you acquire customers, in other words, your marketing, and go through the steps on delivering on your brand promise. Think of it high level and think of these as process groups. When you get into the details, there's usually multiple processes in each core process and may easily distract you from plotting out your path to your goal. And this is very common when you get into it. You want to get onto these rabbit holes of getting into this finite detail. Don't hold back and stick to the high level. Well, we then place the steps in a process map or a flow chart. This becomes a simple reference map for anyone in the business. Anyone can look at it within your business and see what typically happens around those processes. And for an average company, there'll be between 5 and 10 core processes. And some of the most common are found in the areas of marketing, sales, operations, invoicing and accounting, and service and support. So those are 5 areas that pretty typically you want to start looking at first. There could be others. Let's continue to work on core processes here. Now we've identified our 5, 10 core processes, we need to have someone clearly make accountable and have it measurable and know the health of each one. And this is the tool we're providing to you after this webinar. If you haven't already been sent this in advance, you will get this after. It's a great tool to use, and we're going to do a little walkthrough here of it really quickly. So what we see is up at the top is you've got some clear instructions, number one. So this is very easy to use. You pull up the form, the instructions are right there. Okay. And the first step is the process name. Identify the 5 to 10 core processes, list them down there that drive your economic engine and its output. In the next column over, you're going to look at your process output, your core customer. List the process output and determine the primary output. The next column over, simply the KPIs, key performance indicators for each core process. And then who's accountable? So put the accountable leader's name down there, assign specific accountability for each core process. And then finally, the status. Assess the current health status of each process. We're using a scale here of 1 being ad hoc or broken, 3 being repeatable or predictable, and 5 being it's ideal or it's optimized and it's scalable. And at the bottom, there's just a little bit reminder around lean here. If you understand lean, the lean philosophy, concept, and approach, the lean seeks to eliminate any waste of time, effort, or money. And 4 key parts they highlight here are define value from the point of view of the customer. Keep that in mind, the customer's viewpoint always. Second, identify each step in a core process and remove the unnecessary steps. Third, make the value creating steps occur just in time. And fourth, repeat the first 3 steps on a continual basis. And you keep going through that until all your waste is sort of eliminated or minimized. Common processes such as ordering coffee or making toast don't sound complex. They don't sound like complex processes until you ask someone how to do it specifically. Well, the same is true with your company's processes. While they may seem simple to you, you need to ensure everyone understands exactly what and how to complete the required steps if you want to have consistency, efficiency, and scalability. And we use process map. Process mapping is a simple visual way to describe processes. Here's an example of a core process map, and this one's around revenue life cycle. Now you can do process mapping on a whiteboard. You can do it on flip charts, sticky notes, or now online, we'll often can do it through Miro or other programs like that. So it can be done all online as well. Well, there's a number of shapes for process maps. The key shapes are really a square and a diamond, nothing more complicated than that. The square or rectangle is really a process. It's a step. Every step you want to put in that. Use diamonds as a decision step. It's when there's a decision that's being made in the process. And you can simply take a square or rectangle and turn it sideways if you're doing this in person. So pick a clear starting point, such as where leads enter the company's sales funnel, then work through each step in the sales fulfillment and service support process until the end of the primary business cycle. Remember to keep the map at a high level. This is important because it's easy to get carried away in that detail. Additional details can be added by creating process maps for each individual step later on. So once you get these high level done, and we're not going to get into it today, it'll be a future webinar, we'll show you how you can take that down to a more detailed level. With the basic process in place, add details such as who is accountable for the process and KPIs. That's critical. Finally, ask what the health of your current transaction levels is. Does it run smoothly? Are there many errors? Is it efficient? Can you use the scale from the optimizing outputs worksheet or color coding as in the example here? So here they've got red showing that's a problem area. Green, things are working well. And yellow, tentatively, there could be some challenges there and things you want to look into a little more. Once you've identified and mapped your core process at the 50,000 foot level, it's helpful to zoom down and look at that detail. So in another webinar, we'll take a deeper exploration of the detailed process mapping. But for all intents and purposes, leadership team right now, to get started, you don't need to do that. Stick to the high level. So in summary with growth systems, be very clear on what your customer is buying, not just the product or service, but rather the problem to solve. Consider the ultimate experience that your system needs to provide. Depend on the core customer and the job to be done for them. And finally, identify your core processes. Must create value and benefit for the customer and are usually specific to your industry. So 3 steps to capitalizing on your growth systems here. Well, what is your customer really buying from you? Think about where the jobs to be done figures in this thinking. How do your systems deliver the product, service, and experience? And get the job done for the customer are what makes the difference between a satisfied and unsatisfied customer and predictable growth for you versus maybe growth. Have you identified your core processes? Use the tool we're providing to you here to identify those high level 3 or 5 or 10 processes that are critical to your business and start looking at where the bottlenecks are. Simply doing that, getting one process down and identifying a bottleneck will bring you huge value. By getting clear on your growth systems, your leadership team and organization is better prepared to make choices and execute their tasks in alignment with your purpose and goals without the constant supervision while increasing empowerment and employee engagement of your staff. By considering your growth systems along with other attributes to agile growth, you'll be on the journey to improve your business success. Thanks for joining us today. If you need help with this or the other tools I'll be sharing with you in upcoming webinars, give me a call and send me an email. Let's connect. Let's keep this conversation going. I'm here to support, help. I'll provide any tools to you, whatever you need. Just let me know. I've got lots of references, lots of connections for that. Take care, be safe, and stay agile. Bye for now.